Winter can get you down. The solution? A winter survival kit and matching card. Hey there, it's Curating Kill Revival, and we're closing out this white on white mini-series today with a bang. Still no background dyes allowed though. So we've done white on white backgrounds out of small die cuts and then sparkle. And if you missed either of those videos, they're linked in the description below. But today, we're doing our backgrounds out of ripped paper. But I'm telling you, this one's a big deal. It's gonna get mounted on top of a super fun interactive element, so stick around to the end where I share all the details and tricks to make a super slick reveal window. I'd like my background panel to end up about 3.5 inches square, so I've trimmed it down using some 65-pound cardstock, and I'm ripping away to my heart's content here. I keep at this until I've got some proper looking snowy hills. You know, the ones that you could happily sled down. We used to have the perfect sledding hill in our front yard, but my husband traded that for terracing. Terrace schmarish. That hill was really convenient for those 3 days a year we got snow. I'm attaching these hills with a strip of foam tape just along the top because white on white needs all the dimension it can get. Do you ever have a stamped image in mind, but nothing in the shops quite fit your vision? I've wanted a set of houses like these for years, but was never in love with the options. Super glad I held out. It's really always worth the wait. It's always worth passing on those impulse buys, because when you buy products that actually match your making style, you're gonna use them over and over, totally get your money's worth. Personally, I like a sweet spot between modern and cute. Remember to give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm nestling these white heat embossed houses into the hills. I'm using a combination of foam tape and liquid adhesive here. But this design would look nice with little critters or wintry people, or just pine trees instead. I'll be using one stamp from each of these sets to make the surprise goodies for the interactive element. You can see I've stamped 4 of each. That's 1 to color and 3 to just cut out and stack behind for dimension. These need some weight to them to work well. Now, how did I choose these images? Well, a combination of what stamped items I had on hand and the person I'm making the card for. This friend loves baking. It'll come along with a winter survival kit, aka a jar of homemade hot cocoa mix, a candle, and some baking mix-ins. I'm so excited to gift this. What would be in your winter survival kit? After gluing these stacks of images, I'm just taking my black brush marker here and ringing the edges. This really finishes off the look. It's time to build the interactive piece and get this card all put together. I was inspired after seeing one of Laura's cards on Instagram. Had such a fun surprise element. Go check her out. Now, the process of building a sturdy and foolproof mechanism took me some troubleshooting, but I'm going to share all my tips with you here. I'm starting off by die cutting 8 rectangle frames out of just some cheap 110-pound cardstock with Hero Arts nesting dies. I'm using some Gina K Connect glue to glue all of these rectangles into a stack. This puts out such a nice thin line of glue. I've marked right where my pull tab will be, and I'm using a circle punch to cut out a notch to make that tab accessible. Now I've got this stack glued to the center of the card, but I did avoid putting glue down right here where I need to make a cutout for the pull tab. And look at me, I'm using my craft knife again. The pull tab is 3/4 of an inch thick, and I'm cutting these 7 strips of paper out of that same cheap heavyweight cardstock. 3 of them are going to be the full length from the inside left edge of the rectangle all the way to the right hand edge of the card. And then 4 more of the same, but just a bit shorter. I'm rounding the corners with my crocodile corner chomper, but I stuffed too many in there. Paper explosion. These strips get stacked and glued into a sturdy pull tab. Now, those 4 shorter strips, make sure those get glued onto the bottom, and that'll create basically a little cutout notch where we're gonna glue a slider element. This is the magical element that's gonna keep that pull tab moving nice and straight. I'm working with a 1/4 inch strip of paper and folding it into this odd little shape. I'm attaching this element to the recessed area of that pull tab. To build a track for the slider element, I'm using one of the inner scraps from cutting those rectangle frames, so it's going to nestle in there perfectly. I'm marking the center of the pull tab, and then I will cut right there on my paper trimmer. But I do need more of a gap, so I'm also cutting a thin strip out of it. These 2 pieces get glued down to the card base now, but I need to leave a bit of the paper closest to the track free from glue. Once I get the pull tab mechanism slid into the tracks, I am ready to glue off the edge of the track. And this acts as a stopper so the pull tab doesn't pull all the way out of the card. I'm using a double layer of foam tape to block off some of the areas where I don't want those little hidden elements to either show or get stuck, because both of those happened in the troubleshooting process. But foam tape to the rescue. Just be sure to use some adhesive remover along the edges, because you don't want those little elements to get stuck up there forever. Wouldn't that be so sad? I cut this sheet of plastic with the same outer rectangle die, but then cut a little bit off both the edges with my paper trimmer. That's so it'll fit perfectly, but the edges aren't gonna show at all. And I've layered one last white rectangle on top. Now, best practice is to adhere plastic with strong double-sided adhesive, tape, not glue, but I didn't have any this thin. So second best practice is liquid glue with some really heavy stuff on top, for a while. And don't mind this messy cookbook. I moved it into the craft room so I could have some more height in my voiceover setup, and my son thought, hey, that looks like a really great crafting work surface. Oh well, making trumps cooking anyways. Eesh, I highly recommend stamping before you assemble everything. I always forget to stamp when it's easy, and instead I put my finished card in very high-risk situations. Just gluing the front panel to the sides of that rectangle, and we're there. A little torn paper for a gorgeous white-on-white background. Remember to check out the other 2 white-on-white background videos in the description below. Oh, and then there's this. Here's to surviving winter with a pop of color and fun. Oh, and sugar. Thanks so much for joining me here today. Remember to hit that thumbs up, and if you want to see more like this, subscribe and hit the gray bell. A new video is coming out every Monday morning. Have a wonderful wintry week.